Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike here at Gamefromscratch, and Microsoft just open sourced one of the most classic game series ever. First, you may notice I sound a little weird. That's because I have lost my voice. Hopefully, it comes back very soon because, yeah, it is me. I just sound like this for now. And I'm going to keep this video short because, well, this is as much voice as I have to work with. On that topic, I also missed a number of bundles, and leading up to Black Friday, we're going to have a ton of these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link them all down below in every video between now and Black Friday. And then on Black Friday, I will do a recap of all the great deals that are out there. So if you're looking to pick up some stuff for cheap and you want to support the channel, do check out the links down below. All right, back to the game at hand. If you are a modern gamer or a semi-modern gamer, this is going to look incredibly antiquated because, well, it is. It's a text-based game called Zork. And Zork was hugely important to, well, game development in general. It's actually one of the first cross-platform game engines of sort out there, and it's not the most exciting thing you've ever seen. We can do things like look in mailbox. As you can say, I can't look in the mailbox, it is closed. So then you say open mailbox. And quite frankly, half of the time that you're playing this game, it is more or less guessing what commands you can do. And I don't know if you can start walking. So there, you start walking on. It is a text-based adventure, but it is a very important text-based adventure. And funny enough, Zork was owned by Infocom. Ultimately, Infocom ended up being bought by somebody that was bought by Activision, and now Microsoft owns Activision, so they open-sourced it. And they don't actually have the source code, which is the interesting part here. This runs on a virtual machine called the Z machine, and then that part they don't actually have, but there are some projects out there dealing with it. So right now, you have Zork out there. Now, Zork, again, how much use is there to you today? This is more of a historical curiosity. You are not going to create games this way. Well, you may, but if you do, you're probably a slightly weird individual. So you notice here, they're preserving it. So the Microsoft Office, or also Microsoft Open Source Programs Office, Team Xbox, and Activision are making Zork 1, 2, and 3 available under the MIT license. And I do actually think the code was out there already, but what they're doing is formalizing it, basically saying, yeah, you can use this. And MIT license is actually pretty permissive. So Zork was one of the earliest games out there. It had clever writing, also it had clever engineering behind the scenes because it had this cross-platform Z machine, a custom-built engine. Z machine is a specification of a virtual machine, and now there are many Z machine interpreters that we use today that are software implementations of that virtual machine. The original mainframe version of Zork was too large for early home computers to handle, so the team at Infocom made a practical choice. They split it into 3 separate games called Zork 1, Zork 2, and Zork 3, all powered by the same underlying system. This means that instead of rebuilding the game for each platform, they could use the Z machine to interpret the same story files on any computer. And then, by the way, a ton of games were made using the Z machine after the fact. And then on top of that, there was other ones. We started adding graphics on top. We've got the Scum from LucasArts, for example. And you can see a direct evolution of how things got there. So here's the original Zork trilogy box. So they're preserving it out. So they worked with Jason Scott from the Internet Archive. The big thing here is they added the MIT license and made it an open source grant because now Microsoft officially owned Zork. So even though the source code was out there, you weren't really allowed to use it. It was in that strange gray area. Well, Microsoft have officially made it under the MIT license. So details of how to run it, you need the virtual machine, and you can see details of how to run it. There are a number of virtual machines. I'll show you the various different resources that are available in just a second. Or the other thing you could do is do what I do, just run on the web. So this PCJs, for example, has a copy of Zork running, so you can check it out that way. So here is one example running through Window Frauds. So Window Frauds is available out there. There are a ton of different Z machine interpreters out there. And yeah, so now it's available under the MIT open source license. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and check out how Zork code looked, you can do so. By the way, if you want to learn more about the Z machine, the Wikipedia entry is actually pretty solid. It tells you the history behind it, how things went about going. You can see an idea of how the language is actually implemented. And you can see here, that's what it looks like. So this was based off of the MDL programming language, the model development language, available from MIT. So you can see an idea of how it works right here. There are a number of interpreters available. By the way, the source code for all 3 of these are now available in separate repositories up on GitHub. So you can see, for example, Zork 1, now it is formal under the MIT license. And you can see both uncompiled and compiled versions. So if you just want to go ahead and run it in an interpreter, you can just use the Z3 file. Otherwise, you can see an idea of here. So here is Zork. Okay, here, let's go G global. Those are all globals. here's the entry point. This is what the generic main file for the Zork trilogy. You can see it in action here, written in 1983. And, you get an idea that there's the main loop. The main loop calls a routine called main loop-1. I don't know the requirement for that. So you get an idea, this is what the code looks like, and it goes all the way through there. And then you can see in actual terms here are running inside of the dungeon, defines the various different ways you can go. So if you're in the bat room and you're looking for a certain thing, you give a description based off of certain keywords, etc. You get an idea of how your games are ultimately put together. Now, Zork 2 and 3 are also available. They're in their own GitHub repositories. And then on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of Z Machine implementations out there. A good place to start is probably Awesome Z Machine. And you can see here all the various different pieces that are available, overviews of the language, of the various different tools that are available here, and then on it goes. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this, probably this is your starting point. So yeah, first developed in 1979 on mainframes, ported to computers in the early 80s, and now Microsoft have open sourced it. So it's neat of Microsoft to do that. Is there any use for this? Not really. This is more of a historical curio. So if you're interested in seeing how things used to be done, or I suppose if you want to make your own virtual... no, technology's moved beyond that. So yeah, probably no real tangible use to this, but hey, it's interesting. So let me know what you think of Microsoft's MIT licensing Zork 1, 2, and 3, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.